The storm rolled in without warning. Rain pounded the streets like a drumbeat, relentless, unyielding. Anna's car wobbled on the slick asphalt, tires screaming against the force of the wind. She gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles turned white, heart hammering in rhythm with the rain. Every flash of lightning illuminated the dark silhouette of the mansion ahead. It was massive, cold, and intimidating, yet it promised shelter, and that's all she cared about. She hesitated at the iron gates, the wind nearly ripping her door open as if trying to warn her, but something inside, a mix of exhaustion and desperation, pushed her forward. With trembling hands, she pressed the intercom. "Hello? Is anyone there?" Her voice almost drowned in the howl of the storm. A low, controlled voice responded almost immediately. "You shouldn't be out there in this weather." Anna's heart skipped. It was firm, authoritative, yet something unplaceably familiar in it. I need shelter. Please." The gates opened silently. She drove in, tires crunching on the gravel path, and came to a stop in front of the grand mansion. She hadn't expected it to be so imposing. Towering windows reflected the storm, dark and cold. Then the door swung open before she could even knock. "Come in," he said. He was taller than she expected, broad-shouldered, with an intensity that seemed to slice through the shadows. His hair was dark, slightly tousled, and his eyes were sharp, piercing enough to make her heart stutter. He didn't smile. He didn't ask why she was here. He simply studied her like she was something both dangerous and fragile all at once. "I'm Anna," she said, voice barely audible over the storm. I need shelter. The roads—" "Anna," he cut her off, a hint of warning in his tone. "You're safe here. For now." And that was it. He led her through the massive hallways, walls lined with art she didn't recognize, the air cool, almost sterile. The storm outside seemed louder now, the rain drumming a frenetic rhythm against the mansion's glass walls. "Do you have family?" His voice was steady, calm, but not unkind. "Yes, my father. He's unwell. And Her words faltered, a mix of fear and embarrassment creeping in. "I didn't know where else to go." He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he motioned toward a guest suite. "You'll stay there tonight. Breakfast will be in the morning." Anna nodded, feeling a strange tension in the air. Something about him was magnetic, overwhelming, yet unsettling. She turned to leave, but stopped. Will you be here?" He didn't look at her. "I always am." That night the storm raged harder. The wind rattled the windows and the power flickered. Anna lay awake in the grand, unfamiliar bed, feeling both exposed and strangely protected. Every creak in the house made her heart race. Somewhere in the darkness, footsteps moved, careful, measured. She couldn't tell if it was him or just the storm. And in that moment, something shifted. She realized she wasn't just trapped by the storm. She was trapped in a world she didn't understand, with a man she couldn't stop thinking about, and with secrets she couldn't begin to imagine. Morning came with a gray, storm-soaked sky. Breakfast was quiet. He didn't ask her about her life, she didn't ask him about his. Yet every glance, every measured gesture was a conversation in itself. Anna felt like she was walking on the edge of something dangerous, maybe desire, maybe fear. Hours later, the storm showed no sign of ending. Roads were blocked, debris everywhere. And then he said it, casually, almost cruelly. "You'll be staying longer than a night." Her stomach dropped. "How long?" 3 days and nights. "If the storm doesn't let us leave sooner, you'll see everything this mansion hides, and everything I hide as well." Anna's breath caught. She wanted to protest, but the truth was she couldn't leave. Not yet. And for reasons she couldn't explain, a tiny irrational part of her didn't want to. The first night was quiet, painfully so. They didn't speak much, yet when he left her to rest, she found a note slipped under the door. Don't be afraid, but don't trust the storm either. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the note. Who was this man, and why did every instinct scream that this storm wasn't the only danger in the house? Anna spent the morning wandering the mansion, though wandering felt too casual for the grand hallways and sweeping staircases. Every step echoed. Every turn revealed another piece of a world she didn't belong to. Portraits lined the walls, faces frozen in painted smiles, eyes that seemed to follow her every move. Something about them made her uneasy, yet fascinated. She finally reached the library. Floor-to-ceiling shelves stretched endlessly, ladders on rails, leather-bound books that smelled of old paper and polished wood. She ran her fingers along the spines, feeling the weight of history pressing down. Then a voice startled her from behind. "You like books?" His tone was soft now, almost curious, and not the commanding voice from last night. She jumped. I didn't hear you." He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, studying her. The storm outside had softened into a drizzle, yet his presence was overwhelming, like gravity itself. Most people don't bother looking. "I like them," she said, trying to mask her nerves. They feel alive." A faint smile tugged at his lips. "Alive, huh? That's a dangerous word in a house like this." Anna tilted her head, intrigued. "Why dangerous?" "Because not everything alive wants to be found." His gaze lingered a moment too long. "Some things should stay buried." She swallowed, unsure if he meant the mansion, himself, or something else entirely. But before she could ask, the lights flickered and the storm's echo returned, louder, sharper, like a warning. He walked past her, closer than before, his movements deliberate, almost predatory. "I'll show you the guest suite again, just so you know where everything is." Anna felt a shiver, not from fear, not exactly, but from the intensity of his presence. She noticed details now, the faint scent of cedar mixed with something sharp, the precise way he carried himself, the subtle tension in his jaw as if he carried invisible weights. The day passed with brief, awkward interactions. Meals were silent affairs. He never asked unnecessary questions, but every glance, every subtle movement felt loaded with meaning. And every so often he caught him staring, not at her face, but at something inside her, something she hadn't noticed. By evening, the storm had turned violent again. Windows rattled, trees groaned under the wind's force, and the mansion seemed to hum, alive in a way that unsettled her. She found herself drawn to a small terrace overlooking the estate, rain still falling, but now gentle, turning the world silver and gray. He joined her there without a word, and for the first time, Anna felt a sense of ease. Maybe because he wasn't speaking, just standing beside her. His presence was steady, grounding, yet still electrifying. "You've never been trapped like this before, have you?" His voice was low, almost a murmur, carrying with it an unspoken curiosity. "No," I admitted, "and I don't plan to again." A soft laugh escaped him. "Most people don't, but sometimes the world decides differently." She looked at him, truly looked at him, and saw the cracks beneath the polished surface. His eyes carried shadows of loneliness, restraint, and something heavier, a past he refused to speak of. And something in her chest tightened, a mix of pity, fear, and something dangerously like desire. That night, sleep was elusive. She kept hearing his footsteps in the hallway, soft yet deliberate, a rhythm that matched her own anxious heartbeat. Somewhere in the silence, she realized she was no longer thinking about the storm outside. She was thinking about him. The next day, he guided her through the mansion. Not just the rooms, but the hidden corners, the private corridors few had ever seen. Secret doors led to hidden libraries, old music rooms, and hallways lined with artifacts that whispered untold stories. Each step, each reveal, was like peeling back a layer of a man she barely knew but already felt bound to. At lunch, the conversation was light at first, polite exchanges about books, art, music, but then a sudden flash of lightning threw the room into stark shadows, and for the first time, he spoke candidly. "Most people see me and only see wealth," he said quietly, almost to himself. "They don't see the cage it comes with." Her hand froze mid-bite. "Cage?" He looked at her, really looked at her, and there was no pretense now. "Yes, gold isn't freedom. It's expectations, it's isolation, and sometimes it's the storm that reminds you of it." The words hung between them, heavy and real. She realized she didn't want to leave this storm, or this mansion, or him. Not yet. Not when the tension, the mystery, and the raw honesty made her heart race in ways she hadn't anticipated. Hours later, he showed her the art gallery, paintings of landscapes, abstract forms, and a few that were unsettling, intimate portraits of people she didn't recognize. One caught her attention. A woman, in a storm, staring out an invisible horizon, expression poised between fear and longing. "She's my sister," he said, as if reading my mind, "lost in a storm like this years ago. Sometimes I wonder if I failed her." Anna didn't know what to say. She only knew her chest ached, an empathetic pull toward this man who carried invisible scars, and she realized something terrifying. She wanted to be the one he opened up to, even if it was dangerous. By nightfall, the mansion had fallen into a heavy silence. The storm outside was a lullaby now, rhythmic, almost soothing. They shared a quiet dinner, the first real exchange since she arrived. And then, as the clock struck midnight, the electricity flickered, plunging the room into near darkness. "Stay close," he murmured, and she did, though she wasn't sure if it was safety she sought or the impossible pull between them. In the silence, she felt it. The storm had brought them together, but it was something inside the mansion, inside him, that would trap her longer than the rain ever could. And then, a soft, almost imperceptible noise echoed from the hallway, the sound of a door creaking, footsteps that didn't belong to either of them, and a presence she couldn't see. Anna's breath caught. The night was no longer just about the storm.
Morning arrived with a hesitant light, filtered through storm-heavy clouds. Anna awoke to the soft tapping of rain against the windows, a sound now strangely comforting. She stretched, noticing the fine details of the suite she was trapped in. Plush carpets, expensive curtains, walls lined with unfamiliar yet captivating artwork. The mansion was a labyrinth, and she was only beginning to navigate its secrets. By the time she stepped out into the hall, he was already there, waiting. Not impatient, not demanding, just waiting. And in that quiet, she felt the tension between them thicken, subtle yet undeniable. "You didn't sleep well," he observed, his tone gentle but precise. I couldn't stop thinking," she admitted, feeling slightly embarrassed. "About the storm, about this place." He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he led her silently down another corridor, narrower than the grand halls, walls lined with photographs, family, events, places she didn't recognize. Each picture told a story, and each story seemed to whisper secrets she wasn't yet ready to hear. He paused in front of one. This was taken 5 years ago, before everything changed. Anna studied the photo. A younger version of him, smiling, lighter somehow, a woman standing beside him. Not a portrait, not the kind meant for display, a captured moment of life before the walls of his world closed in. She's My sister, he finished. She left. Things went wrong, and I've carried it ever since. The vulnerability in his eyes made Anna's chest tighten. Here was a man so powerful, so untouchable to the outside world, and yet, inside this mansion, he carried loss, guilt, and solitude like armor. She didn't know if she should reach out or step back. As the day unfolded, he took her on an unexpected tour, not the luxurious halls or art rooms, but the hidden corridors, the forgotten corners of the mansion. Dust danced in the streams of light, old furniture covered with sheets, faint echoes of lives once lived here. It was eerie, intimate, and mesmerizing. At one point she found herself in the music room. Pianos, violins, and instruments she didn't recognize lay in waiting, as if waiting for hands brave enough to awaken them. He watched her closely as she ran her fingers over a piano, and for the first time, he allowed a small smile to flicker across his face. "You play?" she asked, surprised by the faint warmth. "A little," he admitted. "Long ago." Music has a way of keeping things alive, even when everything else dies. Anna nodded, sensing the truth behind his words. In that moment, the mansion felt less like a cage and more like a place holding fragments of a man she couldn't stop thinking about. The afternoon brought an uneasy tension. As she walked through the galleries again, she noticed a small door partially hidden behind a tapestry. It was barely noticeable, yet something about it drew her in. She glanced at him, but he seemed engrossed in examining a sculpture. Curiosity gnawed at her. She reached for the doorknob. It clicked open with surprising ease. Inside was a small study, lined with books, journals, and letters stacked haphazardly. Something felt personal. She picked up one of the letters, scanning the handwriting. Her eyes widened. These were not ordinary letters. They were confessions, reflections, lost love, and a life no one knew existed outside the mansion. The sound of footsteps made her jump. He appeared in the doorway, expression unreadable. "I see you found the room." Anna's cheeks flushed. I didn't mean to." He stepped closer, eyes intense. "Curiosity is not a crime. But some doors are meant to remain closed until the right time." Something inside her stirred, a dangerous mix of attraction, fear, and the thrill of the unknown. She realized, with both excitement and trepidation, that this man was not only a storm in the weather outside, but a storm inside her heart. Evening descended like a velvet curtain. The storm had eased, but the mansion seemed alive with shadows. Dinner was again quiet, punctuated by glances that lingered too long. Anna felt the pull between them more acutely now, a tension that was magnetic, impossible to ignore. Later, she found herself on the terrace again, staring at the rain-slicked gardens. He joined her silently, handing her a blanket without a word. They stood side by side, the unspoken emotions between them almost unbearable. "You never asked why I live here alone," he said finally. I didn't want to pry," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. He smiled faintly, a mixture of sadness and resolve. "Isolation is not a choice. It's a necessity. Sometimes to protect yourself, sometimes to protect others." She looked at him, heart aching with a mix of empathy and something deeper, more confusing. "And now I'm here, in your world." "Yes." His voice was quiet, almost reverent, "and it changes everything." That night, the power flickered again. The mansion groaned in protest as the wind outside whispered through the eaves. Anna lay awake, thinking of the secrets she'd glimpsed, the walls he carried, and the storm that had trapped her here. And then, faintly, she heard it. Footsteps in the hallway. Not his. She froze, her breath caught. Someone was moving through the mansion, silent, deliberate.
She wanted to call out, but the sound of his voice, low and commanding behind her door, stopped her. "Stay where you are," he said. And then, without another word, he was gone. Minutes stretched into eternity, and somewhere in the darkness, she realized this mansion held more than memories and loneliness. It held danger, mystery, and perhaps the beginnings of something neither of them could deny. And in that moment, Anna understood the storm had brought her here. The mansion would not let her leave, and the billionaire would change her life forever.
The mansion was unusually quiet the next morning. Even the wind seemed hesitant, tiptoeing across the estate, leaving the world in a fragile, hushed calm. Anna rose slowly, the events of the previous night replaying in her mind. The secret study, the letters, the footsteps that weren't his. Every detail tugged at her curiosity, yet a strange instinct whispered caution. She dressed and stepped into the hall, but the mansion had changed. The shadows seemed sharper, corners darker, as if it had waited all night to reveal itself. And he was there, waiting, calm, patient, imposing. "You're up early," he said softly, almost an observation, not a question. "I couldn't sleep. Someone moved last night." He studied her silently, then nodded. "I know. The mansion doesn't welcome strangers easily." She frowned. "Strangers? What do you mean?" "Not all of them are human," he said quietly, a shadow crossing his face. "Some ghosts linger, memories of the past that refuse to leave." Anna's stomach tightened. She wanted to laugh it off, but the mansion seemed alive with proof of his words. Every creak, every whispering corner told a story of lives once lived, choices once made, regrets never resolved. He took her hand then, steady, reassuring. "Come," he said. "It's time you see everything." He led her down a hidden staircase, narrow and winding, that opened into a forgotten part of the estate. Dust hung in the air, and cobwebs clung to ornate frames of paintings that had not seen light in decades. At the center stood a large mirror, its surface clouded, reflecting only shadows. "This was my mother's room," he said softly. She disappeared years ago, and the mansion, it remembers her." Anna stepped closer, eyes tracing the mirror's surface. Faint shapes flickered within it, moments frozen, memories replaying like a dream. Her heart raced. The mansion was not just a house, it was a keeper of secrets, of lives, of love and loss. "You see," he whispered, "I've hidden myself in this place, but it has a way of revealing truths whether you like it or not." Her hand brushed his, and a jolt ran through her. He didn't pull away, he let the contact linger, and in that fleeting touch, she felt it, the storm of emotion that had been building since the first night, now impossible to deny. Hours passed as he showed her room after room, art galleries of haunting beauty, music halls where silence still echoed with melody, libraries that smelled of knowledge and sorrow. Every corner, every artifact carried a story, and every story drew them closer, weaving a web of intimacy that neither could escape. By evening, the mansion had fully revealed itself, and with it, him. The billionaire, so composed and untouchable to the outside world, now walked beside her not as a stranger, but as someone who had let her glimpse his walls, his grief, and the fragile humanity beneath the power. They dined quietly, but tonight was different. He spoke more, laughed softly, and let moments of genuine connection slip past the barriers he had so carefully constructed. After dinner, they found themselves on the terrace again. Rain fell lightly, misting the gardens, creating a world suspended between reality and dream. She turned to him, courage rising like a tide. "Why me?" she asked softly.
Why did you let me stay here? Really?" He looked at her, the storm outside reflected in his eyes. "Because I've been alone too long, and something about you. I can't explain. You're not afraid of the storm. You see beyond it." Her chest tightened, and in that moment she realized she had crossed the line from fear and curiosity into something deeper, something neither of them could control. The night deepened, shadows folding into the corners, the mansion a silent witness, and then, almost instinctively, they moved closer. A hand brushed her hair back, eyes met, lingering, searching, holding unspoken confessions. And then a storm unlike the first erupted, not outside, but within. Words became unnecessary, glances, touches, moments stretched, fragile and electric. In the quiet, the mansion seemed to exhale, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Hours later, they found themselves in the study, sitting close, shoulders touching, hearts hammering in unison. The vulnerability, the tension, the shared secrets had broken down walls neither expected. I never thought I'd feel this again," he whispered. "Feel what?" she asked, breathless. This connection, this hope, with someone who's not afraid." She smiled softly, leaning closer. "I'm not afraid of you, or the mansion, or the storm." He hesitated, then finally allowed the walls to fall completely. Their lips met in a tentative, searching kiss, one that spoke of longing, relief, and the thrill of discovery. It wasn't rushed, it wasn't urgent, it was inevitable. The mansion silent around them seemed to hold its breath, and in that moment, Anna realized the storm had brought her here. The billionaire had trapped her in more ways than one, and her life, forever changed, had begun to intertwine with his. By morning, the skies had cleared. Sunlight spilled across the gardens, glinting off the rain-soaked paths. The roads outside were finally clear. Anna could leave if she wanted, but she didn't. She stayed, not out of obligation, not out of fear, but because the storm had revealed more than just power and wealth. It had revealed hearts capable of trust, of love, and of hope. And as they stood together on the terrace one last time, she realized the mansion, the storm, and the billionaire had given her something she never expected. A new beginning. A story written not by circumstance, but by choice. And in his eyes, she saw the same truth mirrored back, that even the most guarded hearts could be opened, even the most lonely souls could be saved, and that sometimes storms weren't meant to destroy, they were meant to bring the right people together. The mansion faded behind them as they walked toward the road, side by side. The storm was gone, but the bond it had forged, unspoken, unbreakable, remained stronger than any tempest could ever be. And for the first time in a long time, both of them felt free.
If you enjoyed this story, like, comment, share, and subscribe to Golden Billionaire Stories, where every tale drips with luxury, power, and passion. Because here, love always comes with a price.